In the mid-Qing Dynasty, deep in the countryside of Xincheng, Shandong, there lived a young man named Wang Cheng. Born into poverty, he lost his father at an early age and was raised by his aging mother. The two of them relied on a small herd of horses to scrape by. Every morning, Wang Cheng would head out at dawn with his horses, dew still clinging to the grass. And every evening he'd return home exhausted, his body aching from the day's work. This quiet, grueling routine went on for more than 10 years. But deep down, Wang Cheng's heart was never truly tied to the quiet rhythm of rural life. At dusk, he would often sit alone on a hillside, watching the sun sink below the horizon, lost in thought. He wondered if the legends were true, if immortals really walked the earth. He dreamed of becoming one of those mystical cultivators from old tales, free from worldly burdens, living in the mountains, untouched by the concerns of ordinary people, and never growing old. That kind of unshackled, transcendent life became his deepest yearning. Then one day, while passing through town, he overheard an old man in a tea house telling an ancient tale. Hidden deep in the distant Lao mountain, the man said, lived a mysterious Taoist hermit. This sage, according to legend, could turn stones into gold, ride the wind, and wield powers beyond imagination. In that moment, it was as if fate had called out to Wang Cheng. A fire lit within him, stronger than anything he had ever felt. He could no longer suppress his longing. Without hesitation, he made up his mind. He would leave his home behind and set out in search of the legendary Taoist of Lao Mountain. When his mother heard that her son was leaving home to pursue the path of cultivation, she was first shocked, then fell silent. She didn't try to stop him. Instead, she quietly stitched him a set of rough linen clothes, packed a piece of dried food, and slipped a few copper coins into his hand. At their parting, she held Wang Cheng's hand tightly and said softly, "True immortals are rare in this world, but if you do find your path, don't forget who you are." Wang Cheng nodded it vigorously, his heart filled with ambition and dreams of the unknown. After days of trekking across mountains and valleys, Wang Cheng finally reached the depths of Lao Mountain. The forest was lush and dense, shrouded in mist, as if he had stepped into a realm of the immortals. In a secluded valley, he at last came face to face with the legendary Taoist, a white-haired elder whose presence radiated a serene, otherworldly aura. The Taoist said nothing at first. He simply looked at Wang Cheng and asked, "Why have you come here?" Wang Cheng bowed respectfully and replied, "I wish to learn the way of cultivation, to leave behind the mortal world and seek a life of true freedom." The Taoist nodded slowly. "Since you've come this far, you must first understand the rules. A cultivator must let go of worldly desires and abandon ordinary food." Moments later, a few senior disciples handed him several smooth jade-white stones. Wang Cheng blinked in confusion. "What are these?" One of the seniors smiled and said, "They're called Jade Marrow Stones, formed from pure spiritual energy. Ordinary people could never obtain them. Eating them clears the mind and quiets the heart. They help you cultivate." Still unsure, Wang Cheng cautiously bit off a small piece. To his surprise, the stone, though it looked solid, was soft like tofu, with a faint sweetness and a subtle, lingering fragrance. The more he chewed, the more refreshed he felt. A cool energy seemed to flow through his body, clearing his meridians, and even his mind felt sharper. From that day on, he lived only on the Jade Marrow Stones. His hunger vanished, as did any longing for the world below. Life in the mountains was harsh and lonely, but he could feel himself drawing closer and closer to the immortal world he had always dreamed of. But was the path of cultivation truly as beautiful as he had imagined? Were the Jade Marrow Stones merely a tool to aid his practice, or did they conceal a secret he had yet to uncover? There was only the first trial on Wang Cheng's journey toward immortality. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 5 years had passed. Wang Cheng's cultivation on Lao Mountain had gradually fallen into rhythm. The Jade Marrow Stones had become his daily sustenance. His face had grown thin, his presence calm and detached. He now carried the quiet aura of a true cultivator. His movements were graceful, his eyes distant, as if he no longer belonged to the mortal world. But one early morning, while meditating cross-legged beneath a grove of pine trees, a sudden image rose unbidden in his mind. That evening years ago, when his mother, hunched with age, had watched him leave. Her words, "Don't forget who you are," echoed through his mind like a clap of thunder. His eyes snapped open. A rush of emotion surged in his chest, bittersweet, sharp, and long forgotten. A true cultivator is supposed to sever all attachments and desires. Wang Cheng had believed that his heart was already still, untouched by emotion. But his mother's voice, her smile, her presence, they lingered in his mind like a shadow he couldn't shake. In that moment, he realized something profound. True cultivation wasn't about running from responsibility. It was about confronting the trials of human emotion and rising above them. With that clarity, Wang Cheng bowed to his master and took his leave. He had made his decision. He would return home to honor his mother and fulfill his duty as a son. When Wang Cheng returned to his hometown in Xincheng, Shandong, the villagers were full of curiosity. After all, this was the young man who had vanished into the mountains for 5 years without a word. But as he stepped into the village, people were stunned. Though his face hadn't aged, his eyes had taken on an ethereal, distant look. His clothes were strange, flowing and archaic, and his demeanor was unlike that of any ordinary man. What shocked them most was this: he carried no food. Instead, he reached into his sleeve, pulled out a small white stone, and began to chew it slowly and with great focus, as if it were the finest delicacy in the world. Someone whispered, "Has he gone mad?" Others murmured in fear, 5 years in the mountains. Maybe he's turned into some kind of spirit or demon. But as the crowd buzzed with speculation, Wang Cheng calmly pulled a small, crystal-like stone from his robe. He took a bite in front of everyone and said gently, "This is a Jade Marrow Stone, not of this world. It helps quiet the mind and suppress worldly desires, aiding my cultivation. It won't harm ordinary people, but it won't help them either." A skeptical village woman scoffed. She picked up a random stone from the ground and tossed it to him. "What about this one? Can you eat this too?" Wang Cheng smiled faintly, brought the stone close to his nose, and inhaled softly. Then, closing his eyes, he placed it on his tongue. "This stone has a metallic tang, a hint of rust. It likely comes from the old well by the river on the west side of the village." The villagers gasped. A few ran to check, and sure enough, he was exactly right. Word spread like wildfire. Wang Cheng, the man who could taste stones and tell their origin, quickly became the talk of the region. People from nearby towns came to visit him, some out of curiosity, others to ask about geomancy and good fortune, and a few just trying to test him. And every time, Wang Cheng could name the stone's source, its qualities, and even describe strange patterns of earth energy or lingering spiritual traces, never once getting it wrong. He often sat and chatted with the village children, teaching them how to meditate and calm their minds. His teachings went beyond just immortal methods. He passed on a philosophy of living in harmony with nature. He would say, "Stone is the bone of the earth, and water is the soul of the heavens. If a person's heart can be as still as the stone and as clear as the water, then their thoughts will be undisturbed and their mind free from attachment." In no time, Wang Cheng became famous far and wide as the stone Taoist, even earning the respect of the local authorities who came to seek his wisdom. Yet Wang Cheng remained unaffected by fame and fortune. He kept his heart calm and unshaken. Late at night, when the world was quiet, he would gaze up at the stars and silently ponder, how far was he from the true path of the Tao? Through this journey back home, Wang Cheng came to understand one simple truth. The path to the Tao isn't found in the mountains, nor in sacred stones. It lies within the human heart. His mother's illness came suddenly, and her passing was just as quiet. Wang Cheng stayed by her side day and night, trying everything he had learned in cultivation to slow the disease, even if it meant giving her just a few more moments of clarity. He stopped eating, stopped drinking, willing to give anything just to keep her a little longer. But fate could not be changed. One early morning, his mother passed away peacefully, still clutching in her hand the same piece of coarse cloth she had sewn for him 5 years ago. In her final moments, her eyes held no regret. She simply whispered, "Chenger, a true cultivator must sever worldly ties. Your path is not of this world." Her words struck him like a hammer to the heart. Wang Cheng held her body in silence for a long, long time. His tears had long since dried. Only emptiness remained in his eyes. He didn't return to the mountain, not right away. Nor did he touch another stone. Each day, he simply sat behind the house, gazing silently at the distant mountains. He was thinking, struggling. If cultivation meant cutting off all human emotions, then what had been the point of coming home all these years? If the purpose of the Tao was to transcend life and death, why did it still feel like his heart had been torn apart when his mother passed? Waves of turmoil surged within him, over and over, until one night he had a dream. In the dream, his mother was not sick or frail. She was young again, standing beneath a peach tree, smiling gently at him. She didn't say a word. She just looked at him, quietly, lovingly. Wang Cheng's heart trembled. In the dream, his tears finally broke free. And in that moment, he understood. His mother had never tried to stop him from cultivating. She simply didn't want him to mistake escaping the world for truly understanding the Tao. She had hoped he would find its true meaning, not use the path as a way to run from reality. At dawn the next morning, Wang Cheng once again donned his Taoist robe. He took out the Jade Marrow Stone he had sealed away long ago and gently bit into it. His movements were no longer mechanical. They carried a sense of solemnity and peace. He didn't look back at the old house. He didn't need to. That bond no longer held him back. It had become his strength. He shouldered his pack and stepped onto the familiar mountain path. His stride was light, but full of purpose. There was no more hesitation in his heart. His mother's final words had become a light within him, guiding him forward on the path of the Tao. Wang Cheng's story may seem simple, but it reflects the inner struggle of every true seeker on the path of cultivation. Cultivation doesn't have to happen in remote mountains, nor is it just about eating stones or giving up worldly food. It's about staying true to yourself, even in the face of life's most heartfelt emotions. It's about finding peace within. Wang Cheng came to understand. True freedom isn't about escaping all earthly ties. It's about learning to live with them in harmony, not being trapped by them, but using them to deepen your understanding of the Tao. A cultivator is not someone without feeling, but someone who sees through the nature of emotion and rises beyond its entanglements. In his eyes, there was no sorrow, no joy, no regret, only a clear, unwavering light. Perhaps for him, this was the moment he truly stepped across the threshold of the Tao. True freedom was never about escaping the world. It's about clarity within.